Good morning. Reading from Genesis chapter 1. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the earth, over the cattle, and over the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them, male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." To me, those couple of verses in Genesis are probably the leading light, the flagship verses of the whole of the Bible in terms of instructing us how we are to deal with the planet upon which we reside. And I'm going to talk today about something that's very much in the news at the moment, something that drives me absolutely mad, and it's something that I think is quite topical as we have this lovely weather, the prospect of people getting out and about more and more, but nonetheless I'm having a good old rant this morning, which will probably label me as a miserable moaning old man. Many of you will know that I cycle quite a bit, and many of you will also know that I'm very much against the illegal practice of fly tipping. But every time I go out on my bike, I cannot travel more than about 25 yards, absolute maximum, without seeing litter or fly tipping or the fruits of it. And now you say, "Oh, that's not fly tipping," but it is. Every beer can, coffee cup, or worse still, polystyrene takeaway box, defiling God's creation, flung out of a car window or a van or a lorry, is fly tipping. We had a tremendous amount of littering problems last year during relaxations on lockdown, and I do fear similar happens this year. We all need to be vigilant about regarding our own behaviour as well as the behaviour of others. In the 70s, as a marine engineer working on ships, I travelled all over the world to many nations where waste disposal was along the lines of just dump it in every bend in the road or ravine. It was horrible. It wasn't just horrible from a visual point of view, but the smell could be quite bad too. And I used to be horrified later when I went on holidays to places like Greece and Spain, how the waste disposal method was again out in the country, down every ravine. But it's no good us labelling other countries, because we are like those countries now. When I travelled all over the world, it was always quite a relief to come home to a relatively neat and tidy Gloucestershire countryside, because that was where I lived before coming to annoy everybody in Dulverton. And in my childhood, in the woods where I used to play, 20 miles from the city of London, in Essex, there was never any litter. The level of littering in our rural spaces has crept up upon us. It hardly existed in my childhood, even just outside London. But it does exist now. It's like a plague. nor not far off the magnitude of the plagues of Egypt in Pharaoh's time. The plagues through which the request of Pharaoh was made to let God's people go. And it's a plague that we, God's people, all need to be released from today. Whether we be perpetrators or suffering observers, not only do we deserve it, not only do we deserve this healing of the environment, we need it. More importantly, our wildlife, who are definitely not guilty perpetrators, deserve it. And this last brings me to the reason, the prompt for my rant. Sometimes when I don't fancy doing the 4-mile climb up onto Exmoor, up South Hill, I cycle to Black Cat, up to Oakford, down to Oakford Bridge and back. And in the last few weeks, 3 times approaching the double bends before Exbridge, I've encountered face to face a huge hind right by the roadside. Surprised by my silent approach, she has on each occasion fled. Not sure of which of us has been the more surprised on each occasion, but seeing her flee away, accompanied by the clatter and rattle of thrown away beer cans and the scattering of other human takeaway debris, takes the beauty of that encounter completely away. Many of you will have many ideas. Mine is to ensure we have as much dash cam and other technology available as possible to track and trace perpetrators. But nothing can really change until attitudes are changed and we all realise just how much our great outdoors, God's good creation, and the best parts of man's development of that outdoors are marred by laziness, sloppiness, sheer disregard for neighbours that we are commanded to love, and with good reason too. Amen.